that romantic vision we all have of a bustling restaurant kitchen? This sort of perfectly orchestrated ballet of fire and steel? Well, the reality behind that dream is, well, it's a lot more complex and incredibly expensive. Building the heart of a restaurant is less about romance and way more about high-stakes, high-cost engineering. Okay, let's dive into this.
So what's with that crazy price tag? Well, it all boils down to one simple idea. See, in your kitchen at home, one oven can do like a dozen different jobs, right? But in a commercial kitchen, it's all about precision. You need highly specialized machines for very specific tasks. And that kind of specialization, yeah, that doesn't come cheap.
And look, when I say not cheap, I am not kidding. This number right here, that's not for the whole kitchen. Nope, that could be the price tag for just one legally required piece of equipment, the extraction system. Over £500,000 before you've even bought a single frying pan. That's the scale we're playing at.
Okay, so when you're dealing with costs like that, every single decision you make is critical. And that starts with the layout. It's not just about what you buy, but where you put it, especially when every single square foot of space costs a fortune. So let's look at how clever design can solve that small space puzzle.
So what you're looking at here is a perfect example of how limitations actually force you to get creative. You can't fit a big walk-in cooler inside? Fine, move it outdoors. You don't have the space, or let's be honest, the budget for massive ventilation hoods, ventless equipment is an absolute game changer. And instead of a plain old prep table, you get one with refrigeration built right in. You're killing two birds with one stone. It just goes to show, right? A small footprint doesn't mean you have to have small ambitions. All right, so you've got your layout figured out. Now it's time for the big guns, the foundational, high-cost machines that are going to define what your kitchen can actually do. These are the big investments, the true workhorses of the line.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty. A combi oven which can steam and roast. Despite a steep 13,000-pound price tag, chefs say it's absolutely essential. The Synergy Grill, they call it the life and soul of the restaurant, so definitely worth it. But then you have a pressurized brat pan, this massive do-it-all cooker, which is just overkill for most places. And that soft-serve machine? Well, for 16 grand, it's only a good idea if you're planning on selling a ton of ice cream.
Okay, so we've been talking about all this shiny, cool, impressive cooking gear, but now we got to talk about the unsung hero, and let's be honest, the frequent villain of the kitchen, the dishwasher. It's not glamorous at all. In fact, chefs call it the most annoying piece of equipment. But if that thing goes down mid-service, it can bring the entire operation to a grinding halt.
So, when you're picking one, the biggest choice you have to make is this: high temp or low temp. High temp machines use sheer heat. We're talking a blistering 180 degrees Fahrenheit to sanitize and kill bacteria. Low temp machines, on the other hand, run cooler but rely on chemical sanitizers to get the job done. And trust me, this one choice, it has a massive ripple effect on everything from your upfront costs to your monthly utility bills.
So before you even think about buying one, you've got to ask yourself 4 key questions. First, what's your peak volume? A huge restaurant turning tables all night needs a very different machine than a quiet little cafe. Second, do you want to pay less upfront for a low-temp machine, but then pay for chemicals forever? Third, if you go high-temp, where's all that steam going to go? You need ventilation. And finally, do you even have the right electrical hookups, water lines, and drainage to support the machine you want? If you get any of these wrong, you are in for a world of hurt.
All right, so we've been deep in the world of 6-figure systems and 5-figure ovens. But what about the stuff chefs are actually using, like every single second of the day? Let's switch gears and talk about the low-cost, high-value items that are the real tools of the trade.
Believe it or not, these things, gastropans, simple metal bowls, this is what chefs call gold. They are so essential to the workflow that chefs are notorious for hiding them or even taking them home. And the most used item in the entire kitchen? A simple spoon. It costs about 25p, and it's used for tasting absolutely everything, from sauces to garnishes.
But here's the thing, the cold, hard truth that applies to everything we've talked about, from the £500,000 extraction system down to that 25p spoon. It doesn't matter how fancy it is or how much you spent on it. Sooner or later, everything breaks. Everything needs monitoring, and everything needs money spent on it to keep it going. That's the critical link. And that inevitability, that's the real villain of our story here. Because in a kitchen, downtime doesn't just mean a broken machine. It means lost revenue, wasted food, and a whole lot of stress. So let's pull back the curtain on the most common kitchen nightmares and, more importantly, figure out how to prevent them.
I mean, this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? A commercial kitchen is a well-oiled machine until something breaks. And notice it says which it will. It's not a question of if something is going to break, it's a question of when. And being ready for that when is the difference between a tiny hiccup and a full-blown catastrophe.
So what's the number one most common failure that service techs see out in the wild? It's this right here. The refrigerator or the freezer just isn't holding its temperature. This is a catastrophic failure that can mean thousands and thousands of pounds of food getting thrown straight into the bin. And here's the crazy part. This absolutely catastrophic problem is almost always caused by two super simple, almost laughably low-tech issues. First, a condenser coil that's just caked with dust and grease, which makes the whole unit work way too hard. And second, a simple rubber door seal, the gasket, that's worn out, letting all the warm air leak inside. And that means the fixes are, you guessed it, just as simple. Regularly cleaning that condenser coil and routinely checking the door gasket to make sure it's got a tight seal. These two tiny little bits of maintenance, which cost basically nothing in time or money, can prevent thousands of pounds in repairs and spoiled inventory. It's a no-brainer.
Okay, let's pivot to another workhorse that breaks down all the time, the garbage disposer. Now, when these powerful machines go down, most people assume it's a major clog or a burned-out motor. But the real reason is way more surprising.
Get this, 9 times out of 10, that's 90%, of service calls for a busted disposer are because of silverware. A single spoon or a fork dropped down the drain by accident can jam and destroy the entire unit. It's the number one cause of failure, and it's 100% preventable. And you see the pattern here, right? It's the same story with other common issues. Food coming out overcooked one minute and undercooked the next. It's probably just an oven that needs to be recalibrated. Bad ventilation, or even worse, a kitchen fire. So often that's just caused by dirty, clogged grease filters in the hood. The story's always the same. Tiny acts of neglect lead to massive failures.
So, okay, we've talked about 500,000-pound hoods, 15,000-pound ovens, which begs the question, what's the actual smartest investment you can make in a commercial kitchen? The answer might not be what you think.
And the answer is this, a solid preventative maintenance program. It's not a shiny piece of equipment, it's a philosophy. It's a routine schedule of checking, cleaning, and making tiny repairs to stop big problems before they even start. And this isn't just about saving a few quid on a repair bill, it's about protecting your revenue, your food, and your restaurant's reputation.
And that's the bottom line, isn't it? It's the absolute minimal investment that protects all of your biggest, most expensive investments. You spend a tiny bit of time and money on regular upkeep, and in return, you protect the tens or even hundreds of thousands of pounds of equipment that your business relies on to survive.
So in the end, it really leaves you with one big question. A beautiful kitchen with all the newest, shiniest gadgets, sure, that's designed to impress. But a kitchen where the coils are clean, the gaskets are sealed, and the filters are clear, well, that is a kitchen that's engineered to last.